Overall gun violence is down in Syracuse, but the amount of murder stayed the same.
Using iPads and other devices, doctors can monitor patients' vital signs and connect with them through the internet. However, Senate Republicans are hoping to have him confirmed by the time the court reconvenes in October.
People came to the Frederick Douglass House to celebrate the 4th of July in a different way.
Wheat is the third largest crop in the U.S., and China is wheat's biggest consumer. The National Association of Wheat Growers says if tariffs remain, the big harvest may not pay off without Chinese buyers.
We could be looking at a global commodity recession if we are not able to move that surplus in supply out of this country.
The House Ways and Means Committee held a hearing this week on how tariffs affect U.S. agriculture and rural communities. South Dakota farmer Scott Vanderwall testified.
We need our negotiators to go back to the table and hammer those agreements out, and so we can stop having our markets react to the negative news every day.
South Dakota Congresswoman Kristi Noem is on the Ways and Means Committee.
Well, China is retaliating directly against our American farmers and ranchers, and that's what's frustrating for us.
The Trump administration says these trade reductions will reduce America's large deficit with China and level an unfair playing field. But farmers say they are worried about unintended consequences.
I think you're going to see lending tighten up. I think you're going to see fewer beginning farmers enter into the industry. I think you're going to see some of our older generation or older farmers look at retirement or look at moving out of the industry.
And wheat growers warn, once international markets are lost, they're very hard to get back. In Washington, D.C., Stefan Oliva, KELOLAND News. Academy participants acted as officers and police played civilians in certain scenarios. The situations acted out in the Academy were not real and done in controlled environments. Retiree Julius Lawrence says a lot of Academy participants were skeptical of police and their actions at the beginning of the program.
Some people had some ideas about what was going on, but they didn't really see it until we went through the whole scenario of everything.
One of those scenarios covered was when cops shoot someone who was on the ground. The SPD played a video of police officers shooting back at a man who fired at them first.
Was this subject after he was hit? Was he able to still move his hand? Yeah. Again, is this that's the law enforcement side. From the community side, is this still tragic no matter what? Yes.
Police shot and injured the man in that situation because he was still able to shoot them even after he was tased. Russin says tasers are only effective about half the time, so that's one reason using them isn't always the best option.
Let's say that it does work, right? Was he still able to get some rounds off before I could deploy the taser? Yeah. Yes. So now all of a sudden, this guy's shooting at me.
Police officers are allowed to punch people in the head, even if they're in handcuffs.
It's important to keep that in mind so you don't end up in the back of a police car. Or here, Russin says the SPD doesn't necessarily train its officers to punch people who are handcuffed.
Could that situation become all of a sudden now something we have to do? Yeah, you definitely. We see this all the time, right? Where all of a sudden the scenario, they start kicking the back window of the car out, which potentially cause a crash here because now you're paying attention to this, you gotta stop.
The SPD had Academy participants understand this by acting out a scenario where they had to get a protester blocking traffic in a handcuffed position. None of them could do it. Some tried talking the protester down, and others not so much. A lot of information was discussed in the 12-hour Academy, but Russin says it was only a sneak peek of police training.
12 hours is a huge commitment on behalf of the community, so we've covered a lot of topics, but this could go on for a month, and we still wouldn't cover everything.
Russin says giving cops more training won't solve law enforcement's problems. He emphasized that police officers and citizens need to communicate better. Syracuse Police Chief Frank Fowler agreed and says who the message comes from is big.
If it comes from a person that they trust, know, and respect, and they have a relationship with, it makes a huge difference.
Lawrence says he and other participants need to take what they learned into their communities. He says sometimes people only consider police interactions from their own perspective.
has a different aspect from where the public sees it, where the police sees it, so that we bring these two together. Because a lot of times I know the family themselves, only thing they're concerned with is about their loved one who are being what they call harassed.
So in the meantime, Russin and Fowler hope the participants used what they learned to inform people they know about policing. Stefan, Oliva, NCC News.